Thank you very much. I love this system. This is the best thing I've ever said. It's like a silent disco, but, with like nice things coming out of you. I don't know if it's gonna be nice things. You're gonna be a little annoyed with things that I say probably, but hopefully you'll enjoy some of it. Usually I talk for 2 hours on end, so the reason why I brought this is I need to limit myself. This is my favorite subject in the entire world to talk about. And before we get cracking on longevity as a whole, I would like to define what longevity is. Is it taking some blood from like a young person and shooting it into your eyeballs? Or is it sitting in front of a big ass panel and getting all kinds of weird rays inside of you? Is it eating 120 supplements every day? Is it you put on like a suit that then electrocutes you and that's the kind of workout? Is that longevity? It is not. I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, because a lot of people will tell me like, oh, it's way too complicated. I don't understand anything about it. Obviously, you guys are way ahead of the curve because you're here, so I'm not going to talk down or anything like that. But let's just define what longevity means. The word in itself just means the ability to live longer than average. That's it. That's the only thing longevity means. So if you have longevity, then you have the ability to live longer than average. And this is average of the human species. And then we can talk about lifespan versus health span. That's also a whole other story. But let's just talk about lifespan in general. So if you live longer than average, then you are in possession of longevity. That's it. It's very, very simple. And longevity is all I care about. It is the only thing I care about. I don't care about, this is not true. I'm building something up here, guys. This is only about longevity. It's not about the economy. It's not about the climate. It's not about social structures. Those are really important issues that a lot of other people address. And I also think they're super important. It's just not some I address from this stage. It is only longevity. It's the only prism that everything kind of lights or shines through. It is longevity. That's all it is. So whenever you hear me say something controversial or crazy, just remember this is all about longevity. I'm only interested in living longer than average. That is my mission. And for those of you who don't know me, I've been an investigative journalist in the way that I've investigated into my own body. I've been experimenting on myself for almost 2 decades now. The first thing I did was actually a sex show where I had a panel of celebrities talk about some dilemmas from our listeners and viewers. And I did, in every episode, I went out and tried something on my own body, some kind of sexual whatever, or thing that I tried, like a dominatrix actually pierced my nipples and all that stuff. So I've had like a long history of experimenting on my own body. I'm actually one of the few men who have given birth. And some Dutch midwives invented a machine, and they thought, oh, this kind of feels like giving birth. Let's try to give that to men and see how they react. Obviously, no one wanted to do that. Some Dutch guys actually did it. They only reached level 7 out of 10. And me and my friend Thomas, we did a live TV show with this machine on, going all the way through the birth, which is until level 10 in the pain realm. So I've always had like a history of experimenting on my own body. And I'm definitely humbled standing on this stage, talking about longevity and health. And a lot of other people here are much better educated than me, and they know they're researchers or doctors and stuff. But I pride myself in that everything I talk about, I have tried on my own body. And if you're like me, not necessarily distrusting things in science, but being a little aware that things might be skewed, then it's really nice to try things on your own body. And I know it makes it anecdotal, but it's my anecdotes. So you get to take whatever you want to home if you want, and if not, that's also perfectly fine. I just was part of a longevity event at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Denmark. And very amazing speakers have been flown in. It was a super cool morning event. I'll give you one key takeaway that I thought was, actually, I'll turn it around. I'll ask you guys. Let's just do a little interaction. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you stuff. Well, actually, there's going to be like a tiny, tiny Q&A at the end, 5-10 minutes if you are up for it. I love those. But I'm going to ask you. This professor came with some quite conclusive thoughts about how much genetics versus epigenetics drive our longevity. And now you all know what longevity is. It's just the ability to live longer than average. So let me ask you, how many things that genes are 50% of the ability to live longer? Raise your hands. 50%. I'm going to go down. So how many things it's 50% or more? That is your genes. Okay, how many think it's 40% or more? That's your genes. Hands up. 40% or more. Sure. How many think it's 30% or more? Okay, a little more. That's fine. How many think it's 20% or more? Okay, that's the cut. Their answer is 16%. And I have two ways of, two conclusions when you look at that. One is a little provocative. I'll start with that. The other one is a little uplifting. So the provocative one is that if genes only account for 16% of longevity, that means whatever is wrong with you is 84% your own fault. And I know that that's a little harsh, but also remember that genes and epigenetics start in the womb, at conception. So unless you were in control from you were like a cell and the first 9 months, and also you were in complete control aged 0 to 15, 18, wherever you kind of got the autonomy back, then it's not entirely true that it's all your fault. It's just your parents' faults, which is much better, right? The good thing, the uplifting thing about this fact is that we have 84% to change everything about our lives. And if you listen to more intelligent people than me, they'll tell you that the mind, the body, the brain, the organs, everything is the body. So there's nothing you can, it's not like, oh, but mine is a psychological thing, so that doesn't work with longevity. Wrong. It's all one unit. It's all one thing. It all goes together. So the good thing is 84% possibility to change your life from the bottom up. And that's what I've been experimenting with for 3 years now. And I have been through I'm not going to say every, I've been through a lot of iterations of longevity. And I wish I had the time to go through all of them because there's so much interesting in each and every iteration, each and every pillar. But I'll try to keep it short in the way that I'll go through what I have coined, I'm not the only one, but I coined like the 4 pillars of longevity. And other people have used this analogy before. It's like a chair. It's amazing if you have all 4 legs. 3 legs is also fine. You know, Anna Jacobsen made one. It's not great, but you can still sit on it. 2 legs, however, it's starting to become a little shaky. So the 4 pillars are sleep, diet, exercise, and gadgets is what I call the last thing. Gadgets also is sauna, ice bath, supplements, all kinds of like high-tech, crazy stuff. And I would probably, and this is my own version, I would say the first 3 account for 90% of longevity at the moment, and the gadgets is maybe 10%, but I'm sure that number is about to change with technology. A lot of this amazing stuff and tech we're seeing here today is just scratching the surface. Peptides we just heard about, stem cell, all these crazy, amazing things that's going to happen within the next couple of years is going to skew that number so that the gadget part, the 10%, is going to be much larger. I don't know if this is the audience for this, but the reason why I'm doing this is not to just live like this the rest of my life. It's because I am pretty sure that we will reach some kind of aging singularity within the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, meaning that we'll reach an age rate at 0.0. And what does that even mean? At the moment, most of us age around 1.0, which means every year we age biologically 1 year. It is possible through interventions, some of which I'll talk about in a second, to bring down that aging rate. And I think the best one at the moment is around 0.6, which means he ages 0.6 years biologically every 12 months. You get the grasp of it. And the idea is at some point, we will reach a point where technology allows us to dial back the biological clock 1 year every 12 months. So that's an aging rate of 0.0. It sounds innocent enough. I mean, but just try to think about it for 10 seconds. What does that mean? That means immortality. I mean, what the actual fuck? That's insane. That is something humans have been searching for forever. The fountain of youth. It's in Easter Island, apparently, where they found this, but that's a whole other story. So I'm pretty sure that that kind of technology will develop. I did a big longevity conference, and a guy that I know called Lars Tvede, who has like a future, he kind of looks into the future with AI and has like a big agency that gathers all this information about the future. And I asked him the final question I asked him, this obviously is anecdotal, is one guy, don't trust everything, but I think it's just food for thought. I asked him the final question. So when does your future people, scientists, data gatherers, when do they say we're going to reach the 0.0 in aging rate? And he's like, oh, I'm so happy you asked. So we have 3 groups, Emil. We have 3 groups who have a different take on when this 0.0 is going to happen. The most progressive one, the ones where you're like, you're a little crazy, but historically they've been right, but let's just call them the crazy ones. They're saying 5.5 years. The middle one, they're saying 11, maybe 12 years. And then we have the conservative ones. They're saying 16 years. I'm like, so you don't have a group saying never. Like, no. But you don't have a group saying like in a couple of 100 years. No. The most conservative group at that saying 15, 16 years. So for me, all this I'm talking about is maintaining this holster of a body to a maximum capacity at its best level. So if I'm alive when the technology comes, then amazingly, we can keep on going. Do I want to? I don't know. I think it's worth saying here that centenarians, the people who get to be 100, when you look at their health or health trajectory, it's quite similar to all the rest of us in the way that they stay healthy and then they start becoming ill and then they die. But the only difference is that the beginning of that trajectory changing towards our diseases and stuff comes much later, and once that starts changing, it goes really, really fast. If you've ever had like a loved one or know someone who's went through like a long period of time with sickness and then eventually dying, you'll know that that's really not something to aspire to. So I think it's interesting to look at the centenarians. I'd rather live a longer life and then quickly, swiftly kill me. So if that technology doesn't happen, that's my backup plan. So those 2 I'm working with. So what are the pillars of longevity? I'm sure you guys already know about all this. I think we should take it just in good faith. And also, I want to tell you about my favorite part in each of these pillars. The pillars I think are most important to talk about. It's sleep, exercise, diet. Someone made a list over which drives longevity the most. Like a ranged list from 1 to 5, what is the biggest drivers of longevity? I think it's super important to know this because where do you set in? The number 1 is smoking, obviously in a negative way. Number 2 is exercise, not sleep, like most people think. Number 3 is sleep. Number 4 is alcohol. And number 5 is diet. Obviously, they're all super important. It's just to say everybody wants to talk about diet, but where they should be is going to bed and maybe run a couple of miles. And other than that, shut the fuck up. So I'll talk about maybe sleep in the beginning because no, let me start with exercise, actually. Let me start with exercise, because the problem with sleep, I found, was it is like a perfume is like a scent. It is so futile. It basically, once you put a lot of effort into it, it actually gets worse because you think about it all the time. So sleep is super, super hard to give good interventions on, because if people spend too much time thinking about their sleep, obsessing over your sleep, then it's going to get worse. I've tried for 3 years to get a good sleep, and I finally cracked it 2 weeks ago. I'll get to that. So that's why I'll talk about the other two interventions first, or the other two pillars, which is exercise and diet. Because with those two usually come great sleep. Let's talk about exercise. I am probably the laziest person you will ever meet in your entire life. I hate exercise. I hate sweating. I hate moving. I live in Copenhagen. Those of you who are from here know that everyone has a bike. I do not. I refuse to ride that suicidal vehicle around town. I hate moving. I bought a new apartment because ours is a 5th floor walk up, and I can't deal with it anymore. Just to tell you the level of laziness you were working with here. I had like parents, creative, we played music in our home, no talk about exercise. No, we even like basically looked down at people who like played soccer or ran, or like, ugh, pathetic. I have no reason to have anything too good to say about exercise, because I've never, ever done it. It's never interested me. It was like a thing that was for someone else. So that I now, today, love running like an addict, like a crazy person. I can't wait to run every day. If I can get to this point, I can assure you everyone with like just a few brain cells and maybe legs can get to that point. Trust me, I've hated it, and now I'm obsessed. And that is because the body is amazing. The body is the greatest thing you will ever own, and when you treat it right, it gives you drugs for free. You don't even have to go down to the little sketchy street we have down here, where supposedly you can get it. If you treat the body well, it'll give you those drugs for free. It's amazing. I've just realized this a couple of years ago, and my life has completely changed. So when I tell you that it's possible to change your ways, you're like, oh no, I'm not in. I even had a conversation with a longevity guy yesterday, and he's like, yeah, no, running, I just hate running. I'm like, I know. I said the same thing like 6 months ago, and look at me now, fucking 70 kilometers every week. What the? So the thing I want to say about exercise that I've tried on my own body, because I haven't put exercise on the pedestal where it's supposed to be. In the beginning of my first iteration, where I did basically everything known to humankind to drive longevity, I exercised 2-3 hours a week, and I was focused super on the diet and on the sleep and all that. But I've come to realize reluctantly that if you are a person who sits down most of the day and don't have other means of exercise in your daily lives, and this is most people, including myself, then the narrative that 2 or 3 hours in the gym a week is a checkbox for longevity is completely wrong. I would call that surviving at the thread of your nails if you do 2-3 hours a week, and other than that, sit still. And I know it's super provocative to hear from someone who never exercised, and I'm aware of the optics here, but in my body, the way I feel going from those 2-3 to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours of exercise a week is unparalleled with anything else I've ever done in the longevity world. Like there's going from zero, obviously none of you, but let's just have a little quick. This is not about shaming anyone, please. I'm going to take that back. How many of you exercise 10 hours or more a week? Hands up. We'll see each other here in 150 years, and we'll mourn the rest of these. Anyway, how many exercise more than 7 hours a week? How many exercise more than 5 hours a week? Wow. 3 hours a week. How many exercise less than 1 hour a week? I will say, this is actually, I wish I was in your position, because you have a possibility now to completely transform your life only using 2 or 3 hours a week. And it's free. You just go outside, you maybe have a kettlebell, it doesn't even matter, you don't have to have a gym membership. I'll say going from 0 to 1 hour of exercise a week is probably the crazy, amazing, most impactful thing you can do to your life. And the same can be said about 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. A lot of studies have been done, and whether you trust them or not is up to interpretation, but everything in the longevity world is a U-shaped curve. Too little is not good, too much is not good. We all know this. It's even true with protein and salt and water and all those amazing things we love. But the U-shaped curve when it comes to exercise is so incredibly huge that I think thinking that, I'm worried I'm gonna over-exercise is not a valid point. I think it was around 800 minutes of cardio a week and 300 minutes of resistance training a week, which is 1,100 minutes, which is 18 hours. So this is where the curve starts to flatten. So unless you do 18 hours of exercise, let's just keep on doing it. And I know it's so annoying because you'd much rather hear me say, just eat a couple of eggs for breakfast and just sit in front of the red light. And yeah, that's also important. But this actually, Peter Attia, has an amazing book called Outlive, much better than my own. And in that, he actually emphasizes that there are 2 measurements that you should look at before you even consider going into longevity. Before you even consider investing in all these supplements and all these light panels and saunas and all the investments you do in crazy things. He's like, there's 2 measurements you should do before you even consider going into that space. And if those 2 measurements aren't good, then you go back and you try again, and then you go back and then you try again. And once those are good, you can enter. Welcome into longevity world. Fine. Those 2 measurements are muscle mass and VO2 max. Basic, simple. It doesn't require needles or blood or urine or anything or being sent to the quite simple tests that I think for people who are just starting their journey, it's so hard to comprehend what to do, where to start. And I think this is such a nice way to be like, okay, so you need to be in shape. Obviously, getting in shape is much easier once you eat correctly and you sleep more, but it's the chicken, the egg, or the hen and the egg, right? What do we start and where do we start? So the only thing I'll say about exercise is the more the merrier, and I've tried all these different iterations on my own body, and I'm not gonna say anything about if it's cardio, if everything should represent it in some way, but the importance is that you actually get it done. If that's in place, so to speak, I think we can move on to diet. Even though it's number 5 on the tier list of longevity drivers, it's definitely one of those who can really, there's a lot of emotions connected with diet. In Danish, the word for food is ernæring. And I'm very interested in using that word because in that word is næring, which means nourishment or anything you need to nourish your body. And that's a super important point when we talk about anything with diet. 9 out of 10 meals, 95 out of 100 meals is just nourishment. It's just stuff you need for your body. Once in a while, sure, we can have something that really makes us happy and, oh, that's the cake my mother used to make, or, oh, this brings me back to, that's fine. But most meals are just essential stuff for your body to use, period. We need to take the emotions out of it. We need to take all those feelings and attachments and comfort and everything there is in food. And this doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be tasty. All the food I make and eat is amazing. I love it. It tastes great, but it also fulfills the nourishment area. And what is that? Okay, let's break it down. There are there's 4 essential things. Well, there are 2 essential things in food. Essential amino acids, which come from protein, and essential fatty acids that come from fat. There's nothing else. There's nothing called essential fiber. There's nothing called essential carbs. It doesn't exist. Then there's also essential vitamins and essential minerals. They can be supplemented, worst case. Just letting you know, those 2 are the only essential things there are. And essential means it's important, essential for life. It means we can't sustain life without it. That's what essential means. It also means the body can't produce it itself. So it needs it from outside. So I'll just leave you with this. One thing, the only thing I look at when I look at a meal is the amount of protein and the quality of that protein. Once my daily requirement is met, I can eat whatever I want. But good luck eating, let's say, 200 grams of rice or any kind of grain after you had your protein and fat. The fat is a little less discussed, the amount of that, also because people are super scared to say you should have saturated fat, which I eat in high doses. But the protein, we kind of all agree on. Even the traditional medicine, we kind of all agree that we need some protein. The amount, we might differ, but let's say it's between 1.5 and 2.2 grams per kilo body weight. For me, I've settled around 2. I weigh 80 kilos, so it's 160 grams every day of quality protein. Because then we're not, is it plant-based, is it animal-based? Well, you can do whatever you want, as long as you remember to look into the table or the protocol of what is the quality of that protein. If it's a plant, is it beans or any kind of plant-based, it's 0.6, maybe 0.7, then you have to multiply that by the grams of protein you get. Eggs is the only one with 1.0 grade. Poultry, fish, meat, 0.9 to maybe 1.0, so those are in the upper end. Just know this and get that amount, and then we're fine. We don't have to discuss anything else than that. That's all I'm going to say. Because the discussion about food and diet in general, it's such small things we discuss all the time. But the reality, we just need our essential amino acids and essential fatty acids, and then we can do whatever we want the rest of the day. I urge you, those of you who don't do this now, to try it a couple of days. See how it feels, see how your energy shifts, see how your cravings disappear, like instantly, 2-3 days. Maybe a little, if you're very sugar addicted, it's gonna take a little longer. Urge you to try this for a period of time and see how much discussion you have with yourself of all the rest of the stuff that you wanna eat. Because it kind of just disappears if you're well fed. Even yesterday, my father-in-law texted me that he's tracking his exercise. He just found out he'd been exercising 240 hours the last year, which means he'd been exercising around 4 hours a week, 4 or 5 hours a week, an entire year. And he's like, I should be huge. He's not. He's like skinny, regular looking. And he's like, why am I not huge? And I was like, in the family chat, I'm like, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but could you please what do you think is gonna happen if you go to the gym? It's like trying to go on a road trip with no gasoline in the car. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, you can maybe drive around the parking lot a little bit. It doesn't make any fucking sense. You're just wasting 240 hours. Maybe it's probably nice for the brain. There's some psychological aspect to it, I'm sure is fine. But if you want the physical stuff as well, you need to get those building blocks readily available for the body. How you do that? Up to you. Just get enough. Oh my God, how much time? Do I even have time to go on? I'm so sorry, we'll cancel someone else. The last thing I'll talk about is the sleep. Let's talk about the sleep real quick, because I told you I fixed it. First of all, getting those other two pillars in place does tremendous work on the sleep. I'll give you one pro tip that Nikolai Damgaard gave me, who's a sleep expert in this country. And it's actually one of the best longevity tips, period, because it kind of transcends all of these pillars. And it's super simple, and it seems so easy to do until you sit there. Because it is just shutting your mouth 3 hours before you go to bed. Just don't eat anything. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And then a new episode of, I don't know, Downton Abbey comes on, and you know you have a, I don't know, Marabou or Toblerone or something laying out there in the dark, calling your name. It's impossible. Just don't have it. My thing is scroll. I don't know if foreigners know what that is. I can't deal with like milk products or lactose and stuff. So I eat that and I just like shit myself to sleep. But it's amazing. The 5-10 minutes, it's ongoing. So we all have our things. Don't eat anything in the last 3 hours before you go to bed, and that's anything that gets kind of a response, an insulin response, which means also no sugar in the tea. No coffee with milk. Obviously, also the caffeine doesn't make any sense if you want to have a nice night's sleep. But I'm just saying, I think that is the best tip of all when it comes to longevity. See how many days you can implement that? It'll really change something for your sleep. But the last thing I'll say, and then we do like a quick Q&A, if you have one question or two. I've been tracking my sleep for 3 years, and it's never been good. It's been, let's say, from 0 to 100, it's between 80, 85 generally. The last 3 weeks, I've implemented a routine where I turn off, because I did a podcast episode about light and the amount of light, or the lack of light we get during the day because we sit inside, and the amount of lux there is outside versus outside. I wish I didn't go into detail with that, but it's super interesting. So I started implementing turning off all the light in the entire house or an apartment, wherever we are, and only turn on my red light panel at a 5%. So the lowest, I have like a semi-professional panel like this with near infrared and red light. So I turn the near infrared to 100% and the red light to 5%, and I put it in the bedroom and I read my book. And I'm not joking, for 3 weeks now, it has been between 93 and I had one night with 100. I never had, 3 years, people, I had 100 sleep score. Yesterday was 97, even though I went to bed quite late. I had a 99 3 days ago. Maybe I'm less stressed. And obviously, I can't prove the cause, but it's causal. So if you have one, try it out. It definitely changed my sleep completely. So now I'm I even travel with it, which is kind of a problem. So I'm going to Spain on Monday. Can I bring a 20-kilo red light therapy panel in the plane? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. I'm stopping now. So sorry. Do we have time for a Q&A, or do I just say goodbye?
Well, end on a high note of Q&A. We won't have time.
Oh my God, we don't have time for Q&A. I'm so sorry. I just think this is... Yes, I'm so passionate. Okay, so let me just give you one final thing to go home with in the gadget department. The last 4th pillar. Then I have all 4 pillars. It's just 2 minutes. I am sure you're all familiar with the Finnish sauna studies. I'm always super interested when all the different longevity experts, they always spend their time bickering about each other, making, he's saying something false, he's saying something false. That's kind of how they build momentum. Notice that I never do that. So when all of these people who usually hate each other, they have something in common, I listen. Everyone goes to the sauna. Everyone. And those Finnish studies are so well done, and they're so comprehensive, so deep, and are actually they actually studied people until they died. And that's the problem with longevity. It's really hard to study because you have to wait people dying, and then in 40 years, we can all say, oh, Emil was completely right, but y'all be dead. So, that's why these are amazing. The Finns study these for 20, 30, 40 years with 20,000 males, unfortunately. But still, whatever. We'll take it from there. And it was like the amount of going from 1 to 4 sessions a week was incredible. 25% all-cause mortality less, 50% anything heart-related disease, which is the biggest killer worldwide. So incredible number. So if I give you one uplifting thing, I know there's a sauna out there, use it as many times this week as possible. 20 minutes, 80 degrees, that's where that is. And yeah, I'm sorry I don't have time for anything else, but that was it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.